Hey there everybody, Nubkeks here, and in today's video we're taking a look at my UI on the Shadowlands Beta. It is one of the most commonly asked questions that I have received is how am I setting up my interface, what are the add-ons I'm using, blah blah blah. Ask this constantly on the spec preview videos from the beta, so yeah, I'll walk you through it here today. It's actually very simple. In fact, you're going to see that because we're on the beta, I have a much more basic interface than I'd actually run in the main game. I mean, there's lots of bugs. Add-ons will be bugged as they're being updated. And there's constant patches. So you really don't want anything fancy in terms of UI. So yeah, let me show you. In fact, if you want, very quickly, these are the actual add-ons I have. We got Details, Plater, UnitFramesImproved, and WeakAuras. And that's it. Again, these first few are really simple. And WeakAuras will be the bulk of the video because that's the actual complicated bit. So Details is over here. This is my damage meter. And this is basically entirely set to the defaults. I just moved it over here. Actually, you can right click and bring up this stuff. This is not even fancy things. These are just the basic, the bare essentials, the bare minimums that I set up as bookmarks. So for example, I could set up, I just added interrupts today. Let's look at miscellaneous. Let's look at CC breaks. Okay, we might want to see CC breaks. Who is breaking the polymorph mob? Cool, and we can see that. But yeah, you can track damage done, healing done, enemy damage taken. This is very important. Who's hitting the right things? How are people dying? Damage taken by spell. Interrupts is nice to see. CC breaks. Whatever. So very basic. Pretty much just the default stuff. So that's that. For the unit frames, I am using a couple of things. This is UnitFramesImproved, right? Spelled like this. UnitFramesImproved. Which I essentially just it's giving you the class colored bar and it's making the unit frame a little bit bigger. It just makes the basic unit frames look a little bit better. And again, this is pure default stuff. I haven't changed any single setting here. It's completely the default. We're gonna right click these, go into move frame. We're gonna unlock both the frames and whatever will pop these roughly speaking around here. And I'll fix up the precise positioning when I've got other aspects of the UI set up. But I generally speaking like these things to be around about here in my UI, so very easy to tell at a quick glance where they are. Very simply, this looks a bit better than the default stuff, and I think this add-on hasn't even been updated since Legion, but it's so basic, it just works. The next add-on we have, and you can see it up here, is Plater. So Plater changes the plates, the nameplates that mobs have, and again, this is pure default. It's one of the most customizable add-ons in the entire game. It's insane what you can do with Plater, but I'm running with just, you know, the basic default settings. Nothing has been changed. Just have it set up to just do that. Very simple, very straightforward. In terms of, by the way, my core interface stuff, I've, again, this for me, essentially a fresh install of WoW, which is the beta servers for me. I'm just gonna turn on auto loot and turn on bottom left bar, the bottom right bar, and right bar 1. Gonna show numbers for cooldowns because there's no add-on to do that. I'm gonna go into the names as well, and these are my settings for the nameplates which tie into that. So I'm gonna turn off personal resource display because I'm gonna use WeakAuras for that instead. Always show nameplates for enemy units, minions, and minor. And I also will change this to stacking. In fact, there's a perfect example right behind us with overlapping nameplates. Again, imagine you are a multi-dot class, like if I'm an Affliction Warlock or Shadow Priest or something, what a pain in the butt to click these, and if I hit one of them with a spell, like which one has this? Like it's impossible to see. So stacking nameplates is just a better way. It stacks the nameplates. It's much clearer then to see how which mob has which and blah blah blah. So that's just something I recommend. For the party frame, this is very commonly asked. People are like, whoa, what add-on is that? This looks amazing. Like, some people saying they use Voodoo, and this looks way better. Hilariously, this is just the basic, I can't show you here. I'll pop up a video on the screen so you can see me, whatever, use this in combat. But very simply, I'm just going to use the basic in-game raid frames. We're going to click to use the raid-style party frames. And we're just going to use this in all content. Display incoming heals. I'm going to display the power bar. I'm going to remove the border because I don't need to see a border around it. I'm going to put frame height and frame width to half. And there we go. We are good. For healing, I like to have my party bar. And again, you'll see it from an example video like down here. So I have like my ability cooldowns, my unit frame, my target's unit frame, and then all my party info nicely condensed and easy to see. And to do that, I'm just going to go into the again to the interface. I'm going to keep groups together and set it to a horizontal group. So it's going to go like that. And you'll have to just squash the actual... You can unlock the frame over here, squash it down and drag it down there and move it around as you want, then relock it. And yeah, the basic raid frames in the game are actually really, really good. I'd highly recommend them if you are, you know, a DPS or a tank. It probably has all the information that you need, and it's default. It just works perfectly. No add-ons needed, no bugs, no errors. It just works. I'd only be looking to get an add-on that actually changes my party frames and changes my raid frames in particular. If I'm playing a healer and I want to track more detailed information in terms of what debuffs they have, what buffs they have, that becomes more important for a healer. But for DPS or tank, don't even bother. Just use the basics, use the default. The final add-on I use is by far the most complicated one, and this is called WeakAuras. So I'm going to show you, just roughly speaking, how I'm setting stuff up. I basically have a template. So to give you an idea, just straight away, this is how I'm getting these icons to appear in the middle of the screen, right? And WeakAuras is super customizable. It's the most important add-on by far out of all the add-ons in the entire game. So, for example, with the arms rotation, I think Arms Warrior is a good example because it's very simple. I'm going to track Mortal Strike, my most important thing. I'm going to show it when it's on. In fact, if I open up this, so for arms, I'm going to have one WeakAura that's going to be showing while Mortal Strike's on cooldown and tracking the cooldown, and then I'm going to have another one which is going to show when it's active, and it's going to do a big glowy button to be press Mortal Strike now, because that's what arms is about. It's about pressing Mortal Strike on cooldown. So big glowy thing. This is when Mortal Strike is up, and that's generally speaking how I have these set up, right? So I'm going to have Mortal on the left hand side. I have the short cooldowns like Mortal Strike, Overpower, Sweeping Strikes, and in this case Deep Wounds. The dot is also being tracked. In the middle, I'm going to track the duration of my major cooldown and then the durations of my defensive cooldowns. And over on the right-hand side, I'm going to track the cooldowns of my big cooldowns. So, you know, Colossus Smash, Blade Storm, my Covenant ability. And in this case, it's actually, it's what's it called? Impending Victory is also something I track there as well. There's not that many buttons for arms. It's pretty straightforward. So, yeah, that's roughly speaking the idea. Let me go set this up now for Frost Death Knight, and I'll sort of, yeah, I'll walk you through the step-by-step process and show you what we're actually doing here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit here, but what I've been typically doing is I have my baseline thing set up, which takes the most time, and then I'm just going to copy and paste these and adjust them for the different specs. So one of the first things I'll do, you can make a group for these. If you're starting from scratch, I have this set up here, for example. You can go into a new aura, make a group, call it what you want, and then I'm typically just using icons, and you can grab those icons and just stick them in. Everything here is, as you can see, it's just icons, customized a little bit. So we've got the Frost Decay there, but one thing you'll do first for your group, you go into the load settings. I have this set to only load, so green tick, it's going to load in combat. When I go out of combat, it disappears. And in this case, it's set to load for Warrior. I'm going to change that, obviously, right now to Death Knight, and I want it to load for Frost Death Knight. And I'm going to make a different set of rotation things for each Death Knight spec. Obviously, it's going to take the longest here for Frost. But then I'll copy and paste the Frost one. And it'll be quicker to make the Blood one and the Unholy one. So I'm going to go into Frost. Well, the first easy thing that we can change is we can... I'm going to go down here. And I have down here, I have the defensives, right? So defensive. So for Frost, I can have a couple of defensives. And we're going to just go into the trigger. And it's pretty simple. I'm going to track for auras on myself. I'm going to look for a buff. And I'm going to go for the name. I don't want Die by the Sword. I want Anti-Magic Shell. Okay, cool. So now it's going to show me Anti-Magic Shell when Anti-Magic Shell is available. In fact, I'm going to move this down. This is the priority order. So I'd rather see Anti-Magic Shell when it's up. And then I'm going to also track Icebound Fortitude. If I show you making this from default, I just make like an icon. Okay, cool. And call this Icebound Fortitude. You can see all these names are all over the place. This is Voidbolt 21. You can see me copying, pasting stuff. So for Icebound Fortitude, right, from the very, very start, I'll go into Display. Automatic icon, that's fine. I do want to see the cooldown. I want to see a cooldown swipe. For this, I want to see exactly how long this is going to be available for. Rough sizing, I'll probably set this to, I don't know, 60 by 60. Seems pretty good for what I want. I believe I have the default group scale lowered to 0.75 here in the group. This is purely This is just purely to make stuff fit better, and you can adjust this the way you want it. It's going to be different depending on the size of your screen. I just have stuff set to the size that I personally like. Not too big of a deal. Anyway, Icebound Fortitude. Text. There's lots of different types of text you can have. You can have the time on it. You can have how many stacks it has. I'm going to turn off text. I don't want to see any text on this. I don't need text. And then this is important, so I'm going to put on a glow. And you can have different glows. Action button glow, the auto cast shine, or the pixel glow. Let's have it be an auto cast shine, just because we can. I'm going to go into trigger. Aura is fine. On me, I want to track a buff. The name of it is Icebound Fortitude. Spell it correctly. There we go. And there's Icebound Fortitude. And then I have stuff set to relatively stable Y coordinates. And again, you can have your own thing. It looks like -80 is what I set for this. I can tell you, for example, right now that with the settings I have in this particular group, that I kind of go for because of the sizings I have. So let me explain this. I'm actually going to make this smaller as well. So for example, you can see with Mortal, if I disable everything here, right? Hang on. If I disable everything that's not loaded as well, lots of stuff. With the Frost DK, Mortal Strike, I have it extra large. It was an extra large button. I'm using a 48 size for nearly everything. Mortal Strike was 60 by 60 instead, and it was glowing because of how important it is to the rotation. I'm going to turn the glow off on that and just bring it down to a 48 by 48 size, so now it fits in. And the sort of spacing rules that I use here are I've got gaps in the middle, so I kind of start at -70, and then I have 50 space gaps between these, because they are 48 by 48, which means there's like 2 free pixels in between each icon. So this is -70 across, this is -120 across, and then going down just from where I had it particularly set, doesn't really matter, but this is like -120 down, this is -170 down. So you see there's like spaces of 50 X and Y for each of these. And then likewise, this is +70, so if I get this cooldown, this is +70 across, but it's still -120 down. This is +120 across, -120 down, this is -170 down. You get the idea, I hope. But yeah, so I set that up for Icebound Fortitude. In fact, let's go see if that works right now. Let's get in combat with these. Okay, Icebound Fortitude. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And it's going to show me the duration. Lovely. I can pop Anti-Magic Shell, and again, I'm going to see that over there. Perfect. Lovely, lovely, lovely. I'll see the cooldown swipe. The text is maybe a bit small, so I could increase the size of that text if I cared too much. But there you go. And you can see that the way I have it set up right now, you could have them be separate. I could have Anti-Magic Shell up here, so I'll see the durations of both the cooldowns, which you probably want for PvP. But I just have it set up very basic, very minimalist here for PvE. And what I'll just do then is I'll go through this and set things up. So these are the cooldowns. So what I have is a set. I have 2 of these basically, right? 2 of these. So the first one is going to be not desaturated, and it doesn't really matter, I think, what this particularly shows. So I'm going to go into trigger, and the trigger is going to be status, and it's going to be the cooldown progress on a spell, and it's going to show it if it's not on cooldown. In other words, if it's available to cast. So let's go with Pillar of Frost. Pillar of Frost. So now I will see when Pillar of Frost is available. Fantastic. Very cool. Very cool. Whoop. Pillar of Frost. Perfect. I also need another WeakAuras to show its cooldown. So for that, I'm going to go into cooldown progress with the spell, and I'm going to show it when it is on cooldown. And again, it's going to be Pillar of Frost. In the display, then I tick this to desaturate, and yeah, that's basically it, right? That's basically it. So if I go in, I click Pillar of Frost, now it's going to show me while it's on cooldown, and you can see that gets reduced when I press different buttons and stuff like that. By the way, I'll also grab like these things now, and I'll just line them up, and I can move the WeakAuras thing. Cool. And I'll grab him, and again, roughly line him up. Doesn't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be anything. Just quick and simple, and bam, it's in. Easy to see, easily done. Wonderful, right. I'll also set up this. In fact, this one is going to need a bit of a change. So, for example, this was with Colossus Smash. Some cooldowns are difficult to track. You you know, like with Warlock, this is a pain. I'm gonna have to update this stuff for Warlock because it's a pain in the ass because it's tracking like a summon, or like Shaman, it's a pain in the butt too. You can see Colossus Smash, I'm gonna track the debuff on the target. I'm actually gonna track again on player. I'm gonna track buff. Buff. I'm gonna track Pillar of Frost. And I'm just tracking it in the middle, so big icon in the middle. So again, if we go into combat here, I can see Pillar of Frost. It's on cooldown, but now I can also see, lovely, the duration. This is how long Pillar of Frost is there. Fantastic. I'm happy. Everyone's happy. Wonderful. I'll join your party, friend. In fact, this is a good thing. So here we go. I can see the party UI, right? Haha. I can unlock it, and I can swoosh it down and grab over here and drag this bad boy, I don't know, let's say down here is probably fine. Something like that, and lock it back up, and there you go. Again, this is pure default raid profiles. Looks great though, right? It looks great. Okay, so I had a quick look at like our core abilities, and I figure we're gonna be tracking, let's say over here, we'll track Pillar of Frost. Over here, we'll track Frostworm's Fury for a big AoE damage thing, and we'll also track, Empower Rune Weapon as well. It's another 2-minute cooldown. So we'll track these 3 big cooldowns. So let's set that up. All right, here are our cooldowns. This is looking pretty good, so I can go into this. Awesome. Power Rune Weapon, cool. Again, I might want to update this so I can see it more easily. Frostworm's Fury. Nice, so I can see that stuff. Looks good, looks good. Okay, so I've been thinking about what else I want to track here with this, and obviously this works out really well. I want to track a dot. I want to track Frost Fever, right? So I want to just see when that's up. So very simple. You can see it's actually set up for deep wounds. So I'm gonna make again just an icon, and I'm gonna set it to you know, just the basic show the cooldown swipe. Great stuff. I wanted to track on the target a debuff, and I wanted to track, what's it called? Frost Fever. Okay, great. So this should track Frost Fever now, hopefully. Okay, great. So it's going to show Frost Fever. That's good. And in fact, let me make this fancier. Okay, what I want to do is let me just duplicate this. Okay, great. I'll flip these. Oops. I'll flip them like that. So okay, that's fine. What I want this one to do, I want this to desaturate and work the way it's doing. I want this one to be desaturated. I want to go in, trigger Frost Fever. Again, also a debuff. Set them to own only. Only matches if it's cast by you or your pet. I want this to, if the aura is missing. All right, and in fact, let me add this as well. I'll add a glow, show glow. Let's add a pixel glow. Okay, great. So if I get in combat here, the icon isn't quite working. It might need me to actually put in. One thing I could go in and do, those numbers are the spell ID. So I could go in and I find out. In fact, let me do it. Okay, great. So this is Wowhead, for example. I'm just going to look up the spell Frost Fever. And this right here gives me the actual spell ID. So I can use this instead, which should hopefully be correct for beta. Hopefully. So I can put in the spell ID instead. Let's see if this is going to work. Yeah, there we go. So we've got the Frost Fever icon. I apply it. We're good. All right. So again, that's the trick with Wowhead. You can search for the spell on Wowhead and grab the spell ID right here. And that's probably the simplest way I know of. There's probably a smoother way to find out, but it just gives you the spell ID. So wonderful. I'm going to track Frost Fever. And again, when Frost Fever is missing, I want to, while it's on there, I just want to show me how long it's on there for. It can be desaturated though. Desaturated means it's not important. Colored means I need to respond to it right now. That's sort of my code. Again, when it's not on the target, it's very important to get Frost Fever on there. So I'm going to have it do a little bit of a glow to draw my attention. And that's going to be cool. So there you go. That's tracking a dot on the target. Okay, now, funny thing I ran into when looking at the Frost stuff is for the most part, you don't have cooldowns on most of your core rotation, unlike a lot of specs. And it's going to be more dictated by runes and runic power. So look at that in a second. Instead, what I'm going to do is set up some stuff for talents. So I figured, hey, I'll track Remorseless Winter. That's a core part of my rotation. And that has a 20-second cooldown, so I'll track that. I'm also going to track some talents. So I'm going to track Breath of Sindragosa. Now, I can actually set this to only load if I have a specific talent selected. So only load Breath of Sindragosa if I have the Breath of Sindragosa talent selected. That's cool. Let's set up one as well. Let's set it up for Cold Heart. So Cold Heart is this one. Every 2 seconds, gain a stack of Cold Heart, making your next chain of ice do 75 frost damage. This stacks up to 20 times. So let's set this up. Oops. Let's set this up. Okay, how are we going to set this up? So I'm going to set this up over here. In fact, let me just delete these. Like, whatever. Don't need them, right? Don't need them. Let's just start with... Actually, you probably should undo that. It doesn't matter now. Whatever. We'll just grab these. It's fine. This sort of shows you I can click and drag. Get them separate. Cool. Display. Again, I want this to be over, whatever, 120. So it's going to be in this slot right here. These are the ones I want to work with. Great, great, great. I want to track two things. So I want to track how many stacks this has. So let's do that first. So trigger. I want to track an aura. I want to track a buff. I want to track it on me, on the player. I want to track, what's it called? Cold Heart. And hopefully this works properly. So Cold Heart. I want to track Cold Heart. I don't need to see a cooldown on it. I don't want a glow either. Turn off the glow. What I do want, though, is text. I want text. I want stacks, which is %S. So I want to see stacks. And let's actually increase the size to something I think is probably going to be good. Let's say 25 is probably good. So I want to see stacks of Cold Heart. Now, I also want... In fact, let me delete this one. I don't need this one. Okay, so that's going to track the buff on me. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to have this also work, but I'm going to trigger this. I want this to only show Cold Heart. Yep, that's fine. Show an aura missing. No. Show an aura found. And I want this one to also show an aura found. I want to show this one if there's, if it has 20 stacks. So 20 stacks. I want to give it a glow. Add glow. Action button glow. That seems fair. Right, let's try that one out. Perfect. So when I'm at... In fact, you can see the stacks are a bit too big. Let's change the size very, very fast. So just go into display. I'm going to lower the text to 20. I don't know. And 20. But if I go into combat, perfect. That looks good. I'm going to fire this off. And now we'll see as the buff builds up, it's just going to be tracking this down here for me. So awesome. I can see combat's going. I'm doing my rotation, like whatever. Who cares? It's all good. Once we hit 20 stacks, boom, there we go. 20 stacks. I want to fire off my spell. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So it's going to glow at 20 stacks because that's when I want to fire it. It's reached its maximum stacks. Maximum stacks, 20 stacks. Big glow. Tell me right away when it's at 20 stacks so I know to fire it off, and that's going to be good. Another thing I want to do is I want Death Knight runes. I want to track those easily and quickly. So I'll just grab a WeakAura. Dynamic thing of Death Knight runes. This sounds good. This looks good. This looks like what I want. Let's try this thing out. So I'm just going to grab this off somebody. Copy WeakAura import string. Great stuff, WeakAura. I'm going to import. Done. Done. I moved this when I shouldn't have. That was a mistake. Okay, DK runes. This is looking pretty good. So these are all my WeakAuras. DK runes. This already looks perfect. Next to perfect, doesn't it? This looks absolutely great. So just whatever. Center that up, roughly speaking. Eyeballing it. I don't know. Might be right, might be wrong. Group. What are we at? X offset minus 106. I mean, it's random, whatever the X offset is. I think it looks fine. I think that looks good. So this should just show me my my runes. I'm also going to need runic power. So let's go get runic power. Runic power. Let's see if we can find a WeakAura for runic power. Runic power bar. That sounds like exactly what I want. Great, I'm going to grab that. Let's import that. Import. Paste the string in. Done, done. Where is she? There she is. So this looks like shite, but it will work, presumably. So again, I'm going to click this. I want to see that. I want to see my rotation things. Okay, the runic power bar is a problem. We'll put it down here. So it's way too big. So are the width to, I don't know, 200? That's a bit too small. Let's increase it to 220. It's mostly good enough. The bar is... Can I change how the bar looks? Because it is ugly as F. What's the... There, bar there we go. Bar texture. Let's make that something nicer. What looks good here in a bar texture? I don't know. Something simple. Details 2020, so just a flat color. That looks a bit better. Okay, I already don't like this runic power bar. I can tell I don't like this WeakAura. One thing I don't like about this, it doesn't have the number. I want to see the number. I want to know exactly how much runic power I have. I don't want to be guessing, so that's no good. We're going to delete that. Sucks. Don't like it. Oh, even better. Okay, so this time I found an add-on, or one, by this guy. This looks pretty good. This is by Zorosh. Let's try that. Let's try this. This one has runes and runic power bar, so that's perfect. I don't have to stress now. This looks like it does both of them for me, just by default, which is exactly what I want. Is it pretty? Not really. Does it do the job? I think it probably does. For me, though, what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this one to load never. It's cool and everything. I prefer the look of this one, and I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use the bar I use for everything. I'm going to cheat, use the bar I use for everything, so I don't need to see this. Use my Demon Hunter bar. I'm going to duplicate my Demon Hunter bar. I'm going to call this my DK bar. DK bear. I'm going to load this one for a Death Knight instead, and this is my DK bar. So I want to see those runes. I want to grab my DK bar, and I'm just going to lower this down. In this case. Okay, that looks fine. I'll just offset it a scooch. That looks fine. I might actually grab the group scale, set it to, I don't know, 0.98 or something. Maybe 0.99. That looks like it might, whatever, be slightly better fit. And I'm going to trigger this one. I'm going with the status, power, player, trigger, power type. I don't want to track Fury from my Demon Hunter. I want to track Runic Power. Ta-da. And hopefully this works. Oh, once again, set these runes to only load, please, in combat. Great. Let's see how this is working now. So I'm going to go in. Oh, yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'll drop that off. Go into this. Pop our thing. I don't know what the perfect rotation is. We're just winging it here. We're just winging it. Fire off my dragon, because I can. Spend a rune. Okay, we ran out of our Frostworm's Fury thing. But I think that's looking pretty good. As you can see, the baseline UI is already tracking some stuff for me. Like, I don't need to track when I've got the proc, that Rhyme proc, which makes my my Howling Blast free. I don't need to track that, because the basic UI is already tracking that. So I'm liking this, actually. I think this is looking pretty good. And it's already tracking Obliterate proc, so I don't need to track that. Like, I see that. I visually see that. Don't need to see any extra info. Yeah, there you are. That's the very, very basic sort of WeakAuras type setup I have here. So I'm just gonna, I haven't even, this is actually more advanced than half the stuff I've been doing. Half the stuff I've been doing has been way simpler than this. Like, I haven't, for example, because I got my runic bar and my runes over here, I haven't bothered with these WeakAuras things. And I probably, on live, I probably would have these set up. And then I'd have a simpler, maybe just show my health bar and my name and my portrait. And again, over here, just show their health bar, name, portrait. I'll probably show the power bar for my target, but I'd probably just, again, set my personal unit frame to ignore runic power and runes and have a clearer WeakAuras display it for me. And guys, there you are. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was helpful. And that maybe we got some extra info out of that. I don't know. You guys can let me know if that was good or not. Like I said, this is very basic. It's kind of rough and ready. We're not doing anything too crazy here. We're not doing anything too fancy. I just want to track just the core stuff to track. I think it's good for the videos. It helps people, it helps you guys watching see and tell at a glance, like, okay, this is how the stuff is working. I can see visually on my screen, like, the core abilities that he's tracking for playing the spec, and it gives me a better feel for the spec. And it just sort of centralizes the info that's needed a little bit better. That's the WeakAuras setup. It's straightforward. It's quite basic. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I don't know. Rough and ready. We'll do a fancier UI guide when the pre-patch goes live and add-ons are properly updated and stuff. And then I'll have a much fancier UI, which is going to look better. But this is just quick, minimal add-ons with the biggest impact. Like, you'd want to throw in, like, bigwigs and stuff as well, But for now, Exorcist Raid Tools as well, another important one. For now, though, whatever. This is fine. This is what we've got. Once again, I'm going to stick up all the WeakAuras strings up on Patreon, so you can go check that out. You won't need to be a patron or anything. I'll just put it up there for free, but just a way to cross-promote. The Patreon, I've just restarted the Patreon, and hey, someone might want to support, so if they do, clever cross-promotion. Me smart. Yeah, you can find them all on the Patreon. Just the basic stuff I'm using on the beta, and you can customize it now, hopefully, a bit to your own designs. Now that you've seen the sort of the rough way that I have things set up and how I'm doing stuff. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye bye.